Well, this is to Gary specifically, and I tried to prepare, but my thoughts are a little bit scattered, so whatever. It's 1:16 a.m. in the morning. So, um, yeah, what to say first? Well, the reason we can get along and stick them in on some level when we're talking directly is because of what I said on the one-on-one contact versus many on many. Now, those stick 'em as many people, you and I pretty much talk as individuals during that, which is maybe, yeah, why uh, it's daunting for other people to keep up or even know what we're talking about. And not because we're talking about some sophisticated thing, but just because we are in a rapid intercommunication between the two of us. Now, I thought I was going to be able to reply to you with this video, Gary. It says I'm subscribed to you, but my comment didn't show up, so I guess I'm still blocked. But it's some YouTube glitch, one way or the other, whatever. Now, it definitely has bothered me that you blocked me in the past. And it still does. It's in a sense, but it's also sort of evolved. I mean, I have to admit, though I'm loath to admit this, but you know, I I will develop an individual perception of someone, and it's sort of a privilege, right? Individual treatment. But I do understand your blocking me is somewhat different in material reality uh, from someone else like this. What's his name? It's amazing guitar fascist or something that I was just responding to, who blocked me before I could even respond to him. And he's ending the conversation, and that's what I thought you were doing, but you still pay attention and stuff. So it does make the conversation more inefficient, and I miss your videos, and I think you also miss more of my videos, whatever you say about your bookmark system. But I miss videos anyway, so it's not like that's a big deal. But so yeah, actually, I'm emphasizing the other side of it, right? The fact that you still do pay attention. So you're not actually ending the conversation. The way I see it, you just feel that the comment area is a sandbox on your property, and you let the kids play on it at your discretion and what is it? You know, on your favor or whatever, based, on your entirely uh, arbitrary discretion. Um, and I'm saying I understand that. I mean, I'm not totally okay with that. I mean, I don't believe in that kind of a attitude, but whatever. I'm a relativist. That's within the realm of relativism. I think it's screwed up, but it doesn't necessarily sabotage the conversation, which is what I really judge. Um, and of course, just like with life, I try to endure as much as I can to accomplish, and not endure. I don't want to endure anything actually online. I sort of have a policy of not enduring, would be the wrong word. It's more like to be able to tolerate without having to endure, but more like, a lot of stuff just rolls off my back, and I'm proud of that. And a lot of stuff rolls off your back innately, and I'm giving credit where credit's due for that sort of thing, and for at least when you block, and it seems kind of petulant to me still, and like you should be a little embarrassed at your instincts there, but if you're not, whatever, because basically, at least you're not really terminating a conversation entirely. I think it does daunt it. I think it does retard it, and I think that's still all a factor, right? But Okay, now with to be serious in gray text, I just want to tell you now it's obvious. You're going to say it's obvious to yourself, but um, I kind of think. But I still want to bring to our attention that, you have been rude to these people, and of course they're going to react in these kinds of ways and characterize and take a certain kind of Great Wall of China approach to the argument they produce. And instead of dealing with your arguments in detail, part by part, they're going to deal with the whole thing because that's how you're dealing with them. Now, you can say, and it can be true even, that, oh, well, I have to because of this and that. And I acknowledge that passive aggressive kind of arguments, or arguments that are, how they're supposed to never insult each other in the overt way in Parliament. So they have all these really, really sarcastic, uh, possibly obscure kinds of ways of insulting each other. And, people that do that kind of thing, that's just as bad as being overt. And I think I prefer the really overt way in a lot of ways. But there's, something to be said for all the ways of conveying someone's displeasure. But it doesn't really matter, because if it's legit and you have to strike back because those are real insults, or maybe because it usually looks like you start the overt insults first. But if you want to go, well, going back, they said this thing, but it was passive. It is hard to pin that down on passive aggressive. That's one of the things they've got on their side of the strategy. But granting that you get to decide when you think it happens, well, even if they started it, even if they deserve it, of course they're going to react this way. But then that leads to this idea of yours that, well, it'll probably get more, bloodshedding in a metaphorical sense, because of course there isn't any. But as it goes along, well, I think that's a really fatalistic and mistaken approach to take. And you need to. The thing is, like, if I make a video saying there's moderate antinatalism, and you are incapable of interpreting that as a positive thing, think about that. That's like I write an article that there's a moderate Christianity, or moderate, and some Christian goes, no, there isn't. I mean, it's not going to help you. A gradation is always going to help you. And that leads me to this. I don't really get, like, don't you know any damaged people? Can't you, am I just so well balanced that you can't see me? Okay, I'm damaged. He acknowledges these elements. I don't acknowledge the whole thing, but I acknowledge elements. And I don't believe in the whole stopping in the human race. That's where we fundamentally disagree. And I guess in the videos, maybe that's the part you're saying. But I do agree that as a personal thing, it wouldn't be a bad thing to convince a lot of people that let's not reproduce. I think that's a good idea. I think those people still care about kids and would be friendly and watch out for other people's kids, and not try to get them to say the N word in the park, most people. And so I think that could be a very, very good thing. That's the side of the agreement. It's just that, I'm believing that there will also be people that consciously, and maybe they'll make a mistake, but we can increase the odds, basically, of them, really having a good reason to go ahead and think that they could take this responsibility of continuing humanity. Now, we disagree on that. Now, can't you just see me? Why don't you just see? I'm a relativist. Why don't you just see me as, oh, he's damaged. He had kids. Of course, he's got to think that. Well, having you damaged friends? I'm not having any more kids, and so that's a material thing. See, I'm going to the material things. What really could offend your philosophy is if I was still going to have kids, right? Aren't you really in possession of a philosophy that needs to be aimed at people before they have kids? 14, 15. Well, let's say not minors. You could get in trouble. So let's say, from 16 to, it's sex ed, so it's a kind of sex ed, right? So might be legit to inappropriate ways to to teach it actually 14. Whatever reproductive ages you need to worry about. Isn't that what you're really dealing with? So why can't you see that? I mean, that I'm a relativist. That's how I kind of see you, and it's no insult because we're all damaged. I don't know if you remember, but I would love to make it a cliche, but I think when you get to know someone uh, well enough, then you find out that everybody is insane. Everybody is insane if you know them well enough. And so what? And why can't you be more tolerant? Um, and let's talk a little bit of specifics. Whatever with gray text, because he wants to just battle you back. It's like, well, fuck that. And that's, he's on his own. And to be serious, I think wonders a little bit more about this. And can't you, like, here's a relativist technique. Take Professor Anton versus to be serious. You want to say she's never ever been honest and blah 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 and every extreme thing about not making any arguments at all. But look, Anton has made videos to you, many videos to you, and you even had this conversation. And what really has he presented to you? Whereas to be serious, well, yes, she also has a similar kind of book-ish take and appreciates Anton in a way that some of the rest of us can't. She has actually presented you with very good attempts on her part to present ideas. Now, whether you appreciate those ideas or not as worth considering, again, is a separate thing from what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the way you characterize someone like to be serious and Professor Anton. As far as her, I haven't seen the video that you were talking about, I don't think yet. But as far as her reactions to you, come on, think about what you said. Would you respect her if she wasn't like, well, fuck you back in her own way? Now, that it's subtle, okay, or that you have some other history where it's like, yeah, but you did that, I can't forgive it. It's not about forgiving it. We're just talking to each other. We're talking about you suck in this way, but at least you're okay in this way. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about any perfect people. We're talking about a spectrum of everybody's flawed. The more stable you appear, the more subtle your flaw must be, basically. Right? So, yeah. So I think the bloodshed metaphor gets a little silly. I think you probably agree. Again, in Stickum, I think I could get you to agree, but that's a rhetorical thing. Works really in a short period of time to get an idea across. But again, I mean, I'm sorry that this kind of thing is slow going. There's enough complexity that it's going to be slow going now. But basically, my hope is that there's a cathartic and productive approach to this conflict where we can bring, the wires together and complete the circuit and possibly short it out, ground it or something, with some organization to how we exchange things. So, I mean, I don't expect an absolute winner, but I do expect groups of people to decide who they think the winner is and agree in a legit way of a group agreement, with a shared perspective who they pretty much think one certain point, say, in a conversation. Another group might see another person. The point is that it can all be tracked, and the reasons why can be noted down, and the moments in time that appear to be evidence to the various groups and individuals can be noted down. So, it's like, that's one reason I want to put contest in here, is like, okay, let's give a place for the contest urge to exert itself and let use that. Let's use that energy to create the database of results of what all of us think, filtered by what all of us think about what each other of us thinks. You know, let's just put all of that in a database and have the ability to access that, and from the energy of this wanting to make a point, wanting to match an idea to an idea and say, look here. Because often both sides could think they've won a point. Now that could be frustrating to us, but from the database point of view, that's awesome, because it's like if both people think that one thing is crucial, and what that means to me is there is the element of a fundamental disagreement, or at least as fundamental as we have. We might be able to break that question, for which each of these parties has a different answer, into sub questions, and find out which they actually, of the sub questions they agree on, and further drill down into which is the fundamental disagreement. And that's kind of the idea. But to me, I guess I have to say to all of you guys, to me what's important is that the game can be played. Now there's always new people, but turnover is like, do you want to be Walmart or Costco? The less turnover, the better. So, and if we actually just are hating on each other, but still talking to each other, let's just be honest. We don't want to be roommates, but we can agree to, not agree. Right? I mean, let's make a new phrase. It's not agree to disagree, because we're not just saying, okay, we disagree and we're going to walk our different ways. That's what that usually means. We're going to agree to argue, to actually actively not agree about stuff, or whatever it takes to make it, it obvious that we are in a conversation. You know what I mean? That's sort of whatever the view is that we agree it should be discussed and argued over. Do you understand? We're in a minority. Most people don't think it's worth doing that. Can't we just fucking unite on this one issue? And then my approach is to deal with the crazy people that I would like to try to deal with, insofar as there's some of these, is that, okay, so you are an antinatalist. You think I'm logical enough to see what you're saying. I tell you I see what you're saying, and I still don't agree with the whole picture. Can you just go, oh, well, he's damaged. He had kids, so obviously he's not going to admit that. I mean, I'd be okay with that. And, gray text, this, that, or the other thing. I don't know really. What's your explanation? If you were just to go, oh, well, gray text is damaged by his experience, that's why he's not antinatalist. Well, he doesn't have kids. I mean, that would be difficult. To be serious. Oh, well, she wanted to do well in school, and now she's all... and have some sympathy for the fact that we're all a little bit formed by our experiences. Now, I don't know if to be serious would be insulted by a thing like that. Maybe she would. Maybe, would you, to be? If you, but it's like, probably some of us would be insulted if you shared it. But I mean, if you just found a reason to go, okay, right. Because some people are adding to the conversation. Might be annoying, but that's not the judgment. The judgment is how much, when you break it down with your solvents, how much really is left there to talk about. And you have argued with a lot of content, a lot of actual semantic content of to be seriouses, whereas all the talking you've done to Anton, I don't see the actual connection of an idea that interacts with yours, really. I don't. So, yeah. It's a weird kind of appreciation, but it's, I learned it when I was taking Latin in high school, because we read Caesar, and I'm like, he praised his enemies all the time. And I'm like, what? Because I'm used to what turns out to be a Christian tradition of, you gotta trash your enemies, you can't, you're only supposed to kill them if they're evil. But Caesar didn't think that way. And Caesar's kind of worldview. You know, you could kill someone good, and if you did, wow, you must be even better. I mean, you're stronger than someone good. Think about it. So he didn't have any reservations about saying how great his enemies were. It just meant he was greater. Might makes right. You know, right there in your face. But the so the might makes right is terrible. But the idea that I would love to reclaim is, and that I personally think I have, is that you have to choose, if necessary, um, adversaries that, in some sense, you can say, that you can promote, that it can be good if you think that you have defeated them or whatever. Now, I believe in a peer-to-peer kind of sharing of information, like we're in one giant computer as a metaphor rather than a contest metaphor. But I'm competitive. I like games. I don't take them too seriously, but it's fun to do it and keep score and all that stuff. So, you know. So anyway, just kind of a ramble. It started as I thought I was going to have a video that could actually be responded. But anyway, we'll see about that. At my site, there's certain kinds of ways of responding where I think you can control your sandbox, and other people have just as easily access sandboxes, and could work out better. But yeah, I don't know what I'm saying. I feel like the heroin church thing, where of course I'm not giving you advice or telling you what to do, especially in your case. But I'm not saying, oh, you should be nicer to be serious in grade text, even though you should. But why bother to say that? I'm just saying, I'm not even, it's not even a plea, because I don't think anybody will listen. I don't think grade text and to be serious will necessarily be that positive to this idea, if they get it, that, why can't there be some sort of conflict in the mind that is handled by the individual where, well, I totally disagree, it's disgusting, your ideas, and they lead to terrible things, but at the same time we need to preserve our ability to have a conversation. And if you're going to say we have no ability to have a conversation and just bitch at each other like there's no way to have a conversation, and then keep having a conversation, well, that's your responsibility to grow up in some way, to enlighten in some way, right? So I have this. Now people misinterpret it, right? But I understand the cult accusations. I understand it's really noxious. I understand it's sexist. I understand that you're passive aggressive. I understand that you insult us in a subtle Scottish way that really pisses us off because we don't know what it is, but it hurts. I understand all of these elements that play into it, and I understand that there's ones that I don't get, that everybody else that's being bothered gets. But it's like, when two wrestlers that are in a professional industry together, and they might train together, they want the league to succeed, they want to promote the same league, but they're supposed to compete. Maybe they hate each other. Maybe they really do. Both of them want to be in the same position, or more famous, or whatever, and they just get on each other's nerves, but some of the hate that shows up in the ring ought to be fake, or if not fake, remanufactured, like there's still an ability to go talk shop and hang out at a barbecue or something on some occasion, or what I mean, that there's some sort of and it might seem like duplicity. I respect people that don't ever do that might feel worried that that's two-faced, but I don't think it is I mean, on YouTube, it's like if it ever literally happened, then we could it could be filmed in part of it and made honest, made overt, not like politicians pretending to compete and actually going out to drinks together. So it's just kind of ridiculous, and I think I understand a lot of the dynamics of this conversation, and it really has to be made such that it can be more fluid and not so much misunderstood animosity. The animosity has to be understood, the context, the variable type, whether it's an int or a float or a structure of some sort. What kind of thing is this particular type of animosity? Is it the same animosity you have for an ultra conservative voter? Or is it the same animosity that you have for someone that thinks it's just totally lame to, consider these issues, or that only people in colleges should consider them, or only politicians can consider them, or even believes that those people consider them in the same way that we're concerned about? Think about these broader issues.